You know, sometimes we get these emails from listeners and they really make us stop and think. And this week's Deep Dives is no exception. We got one about Nona Moysu's poem, Cherry Leaves, and it's got us wondering.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah. It's so layered, so classic Moysu.
Right, so many layers. And for anyone just joining us, we've actually tackled Nona Moysu a few times before. Remember that whole anagram thing? Their name? It's an anagram for anonymous.
Oh, yeah. How could we forget that? Such a cool detail.
Talk about playing with identity and hidden meanings.
Totally. And Cherry Leaves is like a master class.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got these two Cherry sisters, Cherry and Cheryl, and they're like complete opposites personality-wise.
Totally. 1 minute you're reading about Sherry and it's all whimsical, dream shoot, chocolate, being some amazing athlete.
And then bam, it's Cheryl. Or C, as Moysu calls her sometimes. And she's laser focused on protecting their cherry tree. Like seriously vigilant. Even a tiny chickadee's peep sets her off.
Right. Gophers, birds, you name it. It's like Moysu is highlighting this clash between indulgence and vigilance, between dreaming and reality.
Totally. It's like those two sides are always battling it out.
And that brings us to this email from our listener. They had this theory. Get this. What if there aren't actually two different Cherry sisters?
Oh, I've heard this one. What if it's just...
One Cherry split personality.
Exactly.
I know, right? And our listener even had evidence, like, remember that illustration of the Cherry family? Mom, dad.
And one single cherry.
Exactly. No twins, no siblings in sight.
It makes you wonder, right?
And when you really think about the poem itself, about how different Sherry and Cheryl act, it does feel more like one Cherry's internal struggle, like that angel and devil on your shoulder, you know?
Oh, totally. And, you know, this whole one character, two sides thing, that's a classic literary move.
Yeah.
Duality, they call it.
Oh, yeah. Like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Exactly. Or even think way back, Janus,
Yeah.
the Roman god. Two faces, past and future. Authors use this all the time to show those inner battles we all have.
Okay, so how does duality actually play out in Cherry Leaves, specifically? I mean, those contrasts between Sherry and Cheryl, they're pretty hard to miss.
Oh, absolutely. And I think even their names give us clues. Like Little Red, that's what Cheryl calls Cherry. It's straight out of a fairy tale, right? Innocence, maybe a bit naive.
Yeah, like Little Red Riding Hood, totally clueless, wandering into the woods.
Yes, exactly. But then you have C, which is, well, it's cold, impersonal, almost like a warning sign.
Oh, I like that.
And then there's how Moysu uses those nature images to show their differences. Sweet flower versus sour flower. Dreams versus bird songs.
It's like we're seeing both sides of this one Cherry, right? The one who indulges and the one who's cautious.
Yes. And, you know, this whole idea of self-acceptance, of finding balance, that's classic Moysu. So many of their poems touch on that.
Oh, for sure.
So maybe this cherry, with its two sides, it's really about that inner struggle we all face, don't you think?
Yeah, it really is like those little debates we have in our own heads, right? Like, cake, one more slice, or, snooze button again. Maybe it's not two voices, but just, like, different parts of ourselves.
Yeah, trying to find that middle ground, right? And, you know, it gets even more interesting when you think about who actually steps up to fight those pests.
Right, because it's not Cheryl. You'd think it would be, with how protective she is.
Exactly. But nope, it's Sherry who takes action.
And the poem even makes it clear, right? Cheryl's like, Little Red, wake up! Time to defend the home front. Like she's trying to, I don't know, shake Sherry out of her daydreams and get real.
And that moment when Sherry wakes up, when she confronts the pests, I think that could be really significant. Maybe it's saying we need both those sides, you know, the dreamer and the realist.
To really thrive. Interesting.
Yeah, we need that Sherry energy, that joy, that going with the flow. But we also need a bit of Cheryl, right? That awareness, that watchfulness, so we don't just wander blindly into trouble.
So it's not about shutting one side down. It's like finding a way for them to work as a team.
Exactly. Just like how at the end of the poem, it's Sherry who hears the birds warning about winter coming. She's clearly learned from Cheryl, become more aware. It's like those two sides are merging a little.
Oh, that's a good catch. I didn't even think of that. And that brings us back to this whole one Cherry theory, huh? It really fits with Moysu's usual themes, self-acceptance, balance, all that good stuff.
Totally. And the more I think about it, the more this theory makes sense to me. It just clicks with how Moysu writes. You know? They're all about leaving things open to interpretation.
It's true. Like those optical illusions, you can see it one way, then another. And both are kind of right. Moysu's really good at that. Leaving you with these layers of meaning, and it's up to you to decide.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so fun to analyze, right? Yeah. Whether it's two separate sisters or two sides of the same cherry, the message still packs a punch. It's about that duality inside all of us.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Cherry Leaves makes you really stop and think about what's going on inside your head. It's not just a cute poem about cherries anymore. It's like a reflection of our own little battles and contradictions.
Absolutely. It makes you think, it makes you
Yeah.
question, and it never gives you a simple answer. And that's what I love about it. Moisu's work always sparks a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
You find your own meaning in it. And
Mm.
that's what makes these conversations so great, right? It's not about being right or wrong. It's about, like, what clicks with you as a reader.
So where do we go from here? What's the takeaway?
Well, I had this thought. Okay, so what if we take this whole cherry tree thing, but flip it? What if we're the cherry tree?
Ooh, okay. I like where this is going. Keep going.
Right. So if we think of Cherry and Cheryl as like those urges we have, the good and the bad, the should I and shouldn't I,
Yeah.
then what are the pests we got to watch out for in our own lives?
Ooh, those bad habits we pick up. Negative thoughts, maybe. Or those temptations that just sneak up on you. Ugh, we've all been there.
There you go. And maybe, just like in the poem, it's not about wiping out a part of ourselves. It's not about being all Sherry or all Cheryl. It's more about,
Finding a balance.
exactly. So our own little cherry tree can, really flourish.
I love that. It's like finding that inner harmony, which, let's face it, is a lifelong project, am I right?
Oh, for sure. It's easy to get caught up in those shoulds and shouldn'ts.
Right. Sometimes we need that little wake-up call like Cheryl gives to Cherry. Pay attention. What are your inner birds trying to tell you?
Yes. Listen to them. And I think, honestly, that might be the most important thing Moisu's trying to say. It's about, like, really knowing yourself, the good and the bad, and finding that sweet spot.
Wow. This whole conversation has been amazing, and to think it all started with one email.
Right. Talk about food for thought.
Huge thanks to our listener for sending us down this rabbit hole. You really got us thinking.
It's always fun digging into this stuff with you.
And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive into Cherry Leaves has you wanting to reread Moysu's work. Who knows what else you might discover? And, as Nona always says, read each day.